Hello everyone, how are you? Today we will have the ability for understanding the lesson 2.6 about gasping the breath, which is very important for us to know because it speaks about the mechanism of the respiratory system, how we can breathe in a very high altitude and the problems that we can face inside it. So on page 30, by the way. So, if you're speaking about any case of emergency while there's a hole inside a plane while you're traveling for a place, we can say here that the traveling here it's on a high altitude. This altitude means that you are increasing the amount of the height away from the Earth's surface, which means the amount of the oxygen becomes less. So people they can get a little bit suffering while they travel because the amount of the oxygen that they get it's not enough for them to be able to breathe. So they start to put this mask over their head to get the sufficient amount of oxygen that are stored inside tanks in the body of the plane. But the problem is here in some people that they didn't put the mask. By the way, they will get the air becomes thinner. They found that the difficulties to get the amount of the oxygen that they need to continue. But by the time they will faint and they will lose their conscious. Some of them when they have the problems inside the respiratory system, they can die because the amount of the oxygen that they need it's not enough at all, and they cannot go work back. So the ability for putting a mask, it's like a kind of a major and high mass demand for the people to go through it while there is an emergency inside the airplanes. And also, you have to know that the captain for the plane has to move down from the high altitude, move down a little bit until he reaches the area where he can find the amount of the oxygen to be available for the passengers inside his plane. That's why he can keep this. And this is the first part here because we already know for the objective of this lesson that we have to know the ability for the respiratory system to breathe, which means we have to describe the mechanism for breathing, inhalation and exhalation from before. And also, if we are moving to the high altitude, what are the similar problems that we will face and how to describe and compare between them. And the last part for our objectives today is how to find a solution for these problems when you are moving in a high altitude. So, second part here, he said that you have a thin air. The thin air here, it happens when you find that the amount of the alveoli inside your body, when they get branches from the bronchus, that they are surrounded with capillaries. The capillaries here, the tubes or the small thin tubes of the blood vessels which carries inside it the oxygen. The problem is at the capillaries, the amount of the oxygen and carbon dioxide to be exchanged at this part is very huge, and they can say that you can or the blood can pick up as much oxygen as they can as the red cells carry a huge amount of the oxygen inside them. But he said here, when you are moving to a place which is very high, as an example, the Everest mountain at very high altitude, you can find here that the amount of the oxygen that you need here it's not sufficient, and this makes the red blood cells inside your body leave the lung to be half filled. Again, the amount of the red cells become less than the half, like they get the half for your lung to be filled with these cells. So the oxygen here diffuses into your tissue much more slowly, which means the amount of the gases to be exchanged is not working well, and also the amount of the energy that you need to keep movement and also to be exercising and do any kind of a work also becomes less. So there is no amount here for your body to contain a subtle amount of energy or amount of oxygen that makes you able to breathe. He said here thousands of these climb people for the Mount of Everest. They also given time here for their body to adapt to low oxygen levels. They can't get adapted to low oxygen levels until they get used for it. So it makes more red blood cells here to grow faster and also to be found inside the capillaries with a huge amount than before, and also inside the muscles, not inside the lungs only. But here you still need extra oxygen to get your the amount of the energy to keep yourself on the top and keep moving to the top. So when the people they cannot adapt for this, after a day for the high altitude, the fluid here it fills their lungs, and sometimes they can get down quickly and die because they can't endure the amount of the blood inside their lungs. Consider your lungs filled with water, blood, huh? Liquid, but there is no air inside it. They said here for find the solution of this, most climbers they start to employ some local people to carry their supplies because there is ancestors at this area. They carry on the ability for them to go for the Mount of Everest or at any high altitude, and they get from it the ability to increase the adaptation of their body to endure the less amount of the oxygen, and also to keep their body's energy in a certain way that makes them able to climb those areas with no suffering. And this causes a high mutation for the genes that found inside their bodies, which already has been sent to the new offsprings. And this how they can bring to the offsprings the ability to get employed by people who want to be into this area to carry them things. Also, you can find here that if you want to keep your lungs fit, you have to avoid smoking, by the way, because smokers here they have a lot of problems inside their body. You can see here that the oxygen here uptake depends on the stating of your lungs. Not all of the people can deal with the amount of the oxygen the same as the other, but they are different from a place to another place or from a lung to another lung. And because of what? Because of the, you can see here the yellow bacteria inside the microscope. When we see this yellow picture down here, the yellow bacteria here, it speaks about, I'm sorry, it speaks about the mucus. Okay, yellow bacteria here will not cause any trouble for this, but here they are trapped in strands of the mucus. The bacteria here is standing inside the mucus, and the mucus here they are found here in the hair-like structure as a cilia, which will sweep them up and also out of your lungs. So this cilia is very important to remove bacteria with the mucus outside. Okay, so he said that toxin that are found inside the cigarette smoke, they paralyze the cilia and they become very dirt, and also microbes and also mucus will build inside the airways, which can make the oxygen uptake slower, and also infection or other or more common to the other parts of the lungs. Okay, so the problem is that this area is not working perfectly. All of the toxin material will stay on this part and be hanged inside the cilia area, and they also keeping the bacteria working better than before. Some people here they got an inherited disease, which we call it here the chest fibrosis, which we can say that inside the cilia the mucus is staying, and the staying of the mucus becomes thicker than the normal one. Okay, so it's like a block. They can blocking the entire pipes for the human respiratory system, which makes them not able to breathe well, and they have to always keeping coughing. But because of this less ability for the exchange of the gases, we can see here that the bacteria they grow faster inside their bodies, and they have to get the antibiotics for them to keep their microbes for resistance, and also to get rid of them. They are harder and harder to kill them and keep them in a very hard way for dealing with it. That's all for today. Thank you, and go for the questions that I posted for you. Bye.